All right, greetings everyone. Dror coming at you with another installment of our replay analytics series. I believe this is episode number 8. And in case some of you watching don't know what this series is, this is where people from around the ESO community send me in their replays. I cast them, I commentate on them, I give my feedback, tell the players what they're doing well and possibly what they could improve on. But of course, it's just my opinion and I do not claim to be an expert in any way, shape, or form. Now, this replay was sent to me by NX Worries, but I believe on ESO-community.net he goes by Cometk. Cometk or NX Worries, thank you for sending in this replay. I appreciate it. I haven't watched it yet, so I am anticipating an excellent game. I believe both of these players are around PR 26, 27. I believe NX Worries is the PR 26 player, and the Dutch is PR 27. But yes, it's going to be an excellent game. I'm very excited to cast another replay. So without further ado, let's just get into it. This is on the ESOC map, Florida, a very beautiful map. And let's get right into the introductions. In the north of the map, in the color blue, playing as the Iroquois, we do have NX Worries, who did send in the replay. And in the south of the map, in the color red, playing as the Dutch, we have Lecastete. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that name. Please forgive me. But, yeah, a very interesting matchup, Iroquois versus Dutch. It's certainly not one you see terribly often, but it's going to be a fascinating one nonetheless. Converting this alligator and picking up the 40 food, very nice by the Iroquois player. I do know of some players that choose to save that ability for some beefier guardians if they're on the map, like these outlaw blowgunners are a good example, or something like an outlaw rifleman or a polar bear. But the alligator isn't a bad guardian to convert. And you did pick up the 40 food, which is going to be very good. So leaving some wood on the floor there, leaving 100 wood, very nice. If you don't need the wood, don't waste the time gathering it. Looks like you have a discovery travois here, using it to scout, very good. It looks like both of you have started with a market, which is extremely nice, especially for the Dutch player, because for the Dutch, wood is a very valuable commodity and one that needs to be spent wisely. So being able to save that 100 wood and put it into market upgrades or banks is extremely beneficial. All right, gonna pick up this 100 XP treasure. I noticed that you're allowing the Guardians to attack your Explorer. I wonder if it would be better if you used your Guardian to tank some of that damage, so you wouldn't have so much damage on your actual Explorer. But of course, that's nitpicking. Are gonna pick up the 100 XP, which is excellent, very good treasure, especially for you know, the level of the Guardians guarding it. All right, what else do we have here? We have 100 food. Ooh, that's going to be a good one. I'm guessing you're going to go for that one next. Putting a longhouse down here, which is interesting. Probably put that down with your discovery travois, I'm guessing. I like how you're getting this this scouting up ahead, just in case any aggression comes in. But being as your opponent is Dutch, I doubt you're going to be facing any serious aggression, unless he goes for an old style pike rush that was used on vanilla and worked exactly 7% of the time. All right, gonna get this 100 food, very good, and picking up the outlaw blowgunner as a guardian. Oh, that's such a good ability for the Iroquois player. Let's look in the Dutch base. Is collecting a lot of sheep. I believe he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sheep. That's gonna be a very good surplus of food for him, especially if they have the time to fatten up. Only one lonely sheep in the Iroquois village. One little lamb. What a shame. You did click up to the second age using the fast age up. Very good. That does indicate to me you're going to be aggressive, which against a fortress, a civilization like Dutch, is not a bad idea at all. Dutch wants to be able to get to that third age, get out those Reuters and those veteran skirms and the veteran hussars. So, you know, catching Dutch in the second age, where in all honesty, their unit composition is quite awkward, is not a bad idea at all. Let's look at your herding here. Good job getting these turkeys in, but you haven't made an attempt to get any other herds in, which worries me a bit. I would definitely say try to get this second deer herd in and this third deer herd in as well. And then you'd be a lot better off. You wouldn't have to do so much walking to gather that food, and your villagers would be safer. The Dutch player is bringing in this deer herd as well as this deer herd, so the Dutch player's herding has been excellent, and he's going to need it because I am almost certain some pressure is coming. And lo and behold, the corral is built, and I'm guessing some Kanye are going to be coming from that. By the way, both of you sent 3 villagers as your first card. That's pretty standard, of course. Training some Kanye, sending... Oh, deleting the 600 wood. Okay, you definitely don't want to be deleting shipments because it does waste a lot of time, especially when they're halfway shipped. You're going to send the 4 Kanye instead, which is aggressive, and you might be able to do some significant damage. You did put down a trading post here, which is interesting. I kind of like that. I kind of like how you're going to be getting that XP, going to be able to send even more shipments. And the Dutch player finally reaching the colonial age, quite a ways behind you. So your military building is already down. So you have a very good window here to get some early aggression. The bank going down a little bit late by the Dutch player. Usually you want that bank going up, hopefully before you hit the second age, and either that or a little bit after. But I mean that's very minor. Going for this native scout treasure. Ooh, but the Dutch explorer is going to see that. But he's going to be driven off by this this unique Iroquois army. Man and beast coming together, finally, to wipe out this Dutch colony in Florida. Historical accuracy is what we go for in Dror's replay analytics. But the 4 Kanye horsemen coming out. And, oh, and 3 more that you trained. Okay, so... a lot of Kanye horsemen. Of course, these guys are very expensive, cost a lot of wood, but they are quite strong and are good raiding units. So hopefully you can get some damage done here. But I do want to commend the Dutch player. Has done a very excellent job gathering his hunts very close. As Zuda used to point out, you want all of your stuff in this box here, and he's certainly done an excellent job of that. But you are going to be able to pen up those vills, which is certainly very good. He's not going to put all 10 villagers in the town center, which, you know, whether that is advisable or not is up to the player. I would advise it, just simply so you can get the most damage out as possible. Training 2 pikemen, which is, I mean, that in itself is a victory. And let me tell you why. Like I said earlier, wood for the Dutch is extremely valuable. You need it to get the banks up, and you don't want to have to gather it. You want to be able to build all of your infrastructure off of those wood shipments. So having to spend, you know, even 80 wood on 2 pikemen is just, you know, awful for the Dutch player. And 2 pikemen are not going to hold off this many Kanye. I wonder if this bank's going to even... Is this bank going to even... Oh, out come the Minutemen. Okay. So this rating has been super good for you. You're sending 600 coin as well. That's not a bad shipment. But this rating has been super good for you. Not only did you have him waste 80 wood on pikemen, which is... Oh, I mean, if you're a Dutch player watching this right now, you're probably shivering just because he had to make pikemen in the second age. It's something Dutch players never like to do just because it's so awkward. But he did get that second bake up and did use the Minutemen quite effectively. Finally getting your hunting dogs in. I think that could have came in a little bit earlier, but you are playing more aggressively. But yeah, try to get that hunting dogs in a little bit earlier. Did pick up 80 wood. Very good. You're also getting your placer mines. What is the Dutch player doing? He's sending the bank wagon, training 4 more pikemen. Ooh, I don't like this at all. I mean, that's, let's see, 40, 80, 120, 160, 160 wood that you have to waste on pikemen. And yeah, they're going to keep the Kanye at bay, but pikemen just, this is what I was talking about with, you know, the Dutch being so awkward in the second age, because skirm costs food and gold, and pikemen cost wood and gold, and you need to be putting up banks, and you need to be getting houses up, and you need to be sending your military well, not military shipments, but your economic shipments, like your 700 wood, your 600 wood, your bank wagons. It's just very awkward for Dutch. But the bank wagon is coming down, and you're just being such a nuisance to the Dutch player. You're doing a very good job. You have lost a significant amount of your Kanye, but I mean they've paid in dividends just because of the bell time the pikemen that he was forced to train, and even those pikemen are now dead. Finally getting some skirms, and he's sending 8 pikes, and he's making another batch. Oh, man. Oh, my heart cries over all of that wood that's not going into banks. But, of course, I can't totally blame him. I mean, he's got Kanye on his doorstep. What is he going to do? Just sit in his town center? I mean, if he just makes skirms, he's going to get massacred. But the 8 pikemen are going to come in just in time. Once again, I do want to commend the Dutch player for keeping his resources all nice and tight here. Otherwise, this would be even worse for him because he couldn't even gather food. Let's see. I think he could have done a little bit better of a job walling in. Certainly, you know, when you're the Dutch player, a big thing, especially when you know aggression is going to come, like from Iroquois, a good thing is to use your buildings as a wall. So, you know, maybe putting this bank over here, putting this bank in this gap, and using some of these houses to fill in that gap, rather than clumping everything so close to your town center. It's, you know, that real estate is just not being used to the best effect. But enough of me riding on the Dutch player. Let's see. Ooh, here's something. Okay. So obviously you're in the driver's seat right now, but the fact that you have this many villagers that far from your TC at only the 8-minute mark is definitely something you want to change. You still haven't brought in any of these deer herds. And I know you're spending a lot of your micro trying to be a nuisance here, but you really got to make sure that your villagers don't have to do all this walking. And, you know, if he had made Hussar instead of putting down a barracks right away, and he was able to raid, oh, you would have a lot of dead vills, especially in this early in the game. There's really no reason to have your vills out that far, especially when you have a gold mine in your base and you have 2 hunts that were very easily hurtable. But yeah, that's just one thing I want to point out. Try not to have them this far out. Now you could put down like a war hut or something and fix that. All right, the Dutch player is going to the 3rd age, which is good for him, putting down a stable. So he's kind of recovered from this, but he's certainly taken a lot of economic damage. Like, look, he's only got 3 banks up, which, you know, for Dutch, when you go to the fortress age, you almost want 4 banks up. And I've seen, you know, 5 or 6 banks. So of course, those are very greedy economic builds. 5 more Kanye coming out. You're also going up to the fortress age. The Iroquois player is, which is not a bad idea at all. Of course, you know, it might have just been better to plop down a war hut, get some more units out, like some Mayana, maybe some Tomahawks, get a better unit composition, and kind of push that advantage you had on the Dutch player. But, you know, Iroquois, their fortress age is nothing to scoff at. Certainly have some very powerful units in their own right. So choosing to go to the fortress age yourself is not a terrible idea either. All right, Dutch player gonna snipe that poor pirate. Poor pirate died. Well, I was gonna say he died by the sea, but this just looks like a swamp. So unfortunate. The swamp pirate is dead. Hashtag RIP swamp pirate. But yeah, the fortress age almost up here. But the Reuters have come out for the Dutch player, which is extremely good. You have been popped, by the way, Iroquois player. 4 mantlets coming out. Oh my goodness. Mantlets. Elite mantlets. That is something I did not expect. That is awesome. I do not get to see mantlets very often, so I get excited when I see them. These guys can soak up so much damage. So if you can use them in the right way, they can be very useful. But I will say that your unit composition does need to improve a bit. Only Kanye and mantlets out right now compared to his skirm, pike, and Reuter mass, which is going to be, I mean, miles ahead of yours. You are getting a war hut down, which is very good. You're going to be able to protect these hunts. Even so, you know, these hunts still haven't been herded. I'm sorry, if I keep mentioning that in the game, I apologize, but those do need to get herded in at some point, I hope. War hut is going to go down, so fortunate enough that the Dutch didn't push on that. Sent the 1,200 resources. I mean, it's a decent card, but I think right now you could be using something like 8 forest prowlers or 9 tomahawks to hold off this pressure that's coming in from the Dutch player. So the Dutch player is entering his his peak of strength, that early Fortress Age. Looks like you have 5 rifle riders coming out, elite musket riders. And you're sending the 8 forest prowlers. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so these pikes are actually going to be useful because he can use them to siege down this corral. Okay, okay, I want to point something out here. I actually want to commend you because a lot of players, when they see that their military structures are being damaged or being besieged, or their town is under threat, or their vills are built up, a lot of players respond by saying, okay, I need to push now, I need to get this guy out of my base. But I love how you're waiting. You're waiting for the correct fight. You're waiting for those 8 forest prowlers to come, along with the ones you're training in your war hut, then pushing, instead of trying to push, getting him out of your base immediately, and possibly losing your army because your composition is inferior to his. So I do want to point that out. Do want to commend you for that. Very good by you. Waiting for the correct time to fight. There are so many games that where the players are equally matched but one player loses because he took the wrong fight at the wrong time. And out come the forest prowlers. These guys are such powerful units. And along with these elite Kanye and these musket riders, I think you're gonna have the advantage here. 5 more coming from the barracks, and they're just gonna eat these pikemen alive, as well as these Reuters. And yeah, I mean, the Dutch player just doesn't have near enough Reuters to hold off this many Kanye. I mean, he has a couple of pikes, and out come more elite musket riders, and 6 Kanye are being shipped, and there's no reinforcements coming from. Ooh, okay, you got Reuters sitting here, Dutch player. Use them. All right. Oh man, this is not a good fight at all. Yeah, not nearly enough Reuters. Way too many forest prowlers. And I do want to point out these mantlets took a substantial amount of damage. Very nice job using them. What they're good for, and that is tanking skirmisher fire, which they are quite good at. More Reuters coming out, but without the backup of the skirmishers, they're not going to be very useful. Yeah, that skirmisher mass just got decimated. And the problem with the Dutch player right now is he doesn't have the economy to quickly create more of those units. Having to send 4 Hussar, because he's still at the 13-minute mark only at 3 banks. And while it's not completely due to this reason, I am going to say that part of it was due to all of the wood he had to spend in that second age. So it all kind of affects the whole game. Each decision affects the other, which is why I think Age of Empires 3 is such a complex game in its own right, because each minor decision can affect the outcome of a much larger event, 10 minutes later or 15 minutes later. Another war hut built to cover these resources. I like that. I like that you're kind of claiming the map. You do have a lot of map control here, and you still have the superior composition by quite a bit. He does have some Hussar mixed in, but I mean, you have these elite musket riders, and oh boy. Okay, hold on. I don't know who's gonna win this fight. I mean, there's a lot of Reuters there. He's just gonna charge. Ooh, his Reuters kind of blocked his Hussars from getting involved. Really needs to get those veteran. Okay, wait, did he get the veteran? No, he did not get the veteran upgrade for those Hussars. Thought I saw it come in. Shipping more Kanye, making more force prowlers and musket riders. All right, the veteran Hussar has come in, but there's so many elite musket riders, and these Kanye are just gonna tank this damage. And these forest prowlers, these forest prowlers are just allowed to sit in the back and just melt these Reuters. And look at all 4 of these mantlets are still alive, and they've tanked so much damage. Yeah, those mantlets are paying dividends. I mean, I've never really given much thought to the elite mantlets, but in the right situation, they can be quite useful. All right, these villagers getting pushed off coin and food. Yeah, look at all these idle vills. The Dutch player is in such a bad position right now, simply because his economy just can't keep up. He doesn't have that strong economy that a Dutch player should have, with the 4 or 5 banks and the market upgrades and, just the ability to pour out Reuters and skirms in that early Fortress Age, which I think is why this Dutch build, it seems just a bit weaker than it should be. Of course, Iroquois is still a strong civ. I'm not saying that the Dutch player has, a huge advantage that he's blowing here. He's certainly in a tough spot with this matchup. I mean, Iroquois isn't as strong as it used to be, but it's still quite strong and can still play very aggressively, which is, in the Second Age, can be a really bad weakness for Dutch, especially when the civilization can field such strong cav, which in the Second Age, the Dutch have a problem dealing with, especially if, you go for a barracks right away and you have to make pikemen. But all right, that's enough of me rambling. More of these villas getting pushed off food. Yeah, I don't see how the Iroquois player loses this. The Dutch player is, what's his economy like? The Iroquois player is at 41 vills with a TP. The Dutch player is at 28 vills with 3 banks. So yeah, the Iroquois player definitely has the better economy. And yeah, I think this is going to be the last fight. I mean, I don't know. Does the Dutch player even do anything from here rather than just get his base destroyed? Man, those forest prowlers are so effective. And that's the end of the game. All right, so a couple of things for each player. We will start with the Dutch player. Of course, Lecastete, or however you pronounce your name, I apologize once again if I'm not pronouncing it right. I realize that you are facing a tough matchup here against Iroquois. That is not lost on me, so I don't want to sound too harsh, but I do want to give you a couple things that maybe you can try and do to try to better handle this matchup next time. So, number one, scout out what your opponent is making. With Iroquois especially, and with the fast age up, they're going to be aggressive. Scout out what they're doing. Is there a corral? Is there a war hut? Use those 2 explorers, that explorer and that envoy, to find out what units do I have to deal with, because that is going to affect, am I going to lay down Hussar? Because if you had put down a stable right away and, got 5 Hussar out and then maybe supported it with Minutemen in your town center, that Kanya push wouldn't have been near as effective. It still would have built up your vills a little bit, but it wouldn't have been near as effective. And then perhaps you could have raided with some of your Hussar when his vills were all spread out like this. But of course, you couldn't have known that because I don't think you knew what your opponent was doing until, boom, 7 Kanya were in your base. Making pikemen in the Second Age, avoided at all costs. For the Dutch, having to spend wood on pikemen is just never advisable. Use that for banks, use that for market upgrades, use that for military buildings, use that for houses, use that for trading posts, use it for anything else but pikemen if you can help it. Of course, I know you were being pressured, but again, that goes to knowing what your opponent is doing. Other than that, I do want to point out some really good things you did. I think that your push in the early Fortress Age was good. Unfortunately, you went in a little too deep and just got squashed when all of these really powerful units came out. Your herding was excellent. Your herding was very, very, very excellent in the first age. I want to commend you for that as much as possible. The only reason you were able to survive to the 16-minute mark is because you had so many resources in this little square. So you have all my credit for that. It's something I'm terrible at myself, so I respect players who can do it very well. What else? The only other thing is use your buildings a little bit better as a wall rather than just clumping them up. So put these banks, out here where they can protect the front of your base. Don't clump up these houses. Spread them out. Make a wall. So kind of what you're doing here with these 2 houses in the stable, but do it with all of your buildings. But other than that, of course, Iroquois is a tough matchup for Dutch. I'm not saying that it's not, but those are just a couple of things. Let's move on to the Iroquois player now. Annex worries. So you were in the driver's seat almost this entire game, which I got to give you credit for. You had good map control. You put on a lot of pressure. The third age, you had a great unit composition. The mantlets, the Kanya, the musket riders with the forest prowlers. You had an excellent army composition there at the end. Shipping these 5 veteran cuirassiers was also a good move. Too bad they didn't get to see action. A couple things I do want to point out, though. Do not let your villagers get that far away from your base unprotected by the 8-minute mark. There's these 2 hunts still never got herded. You actually brought your TC to the hunt rather than bringing your hunt to the TC, which is fascinating to me. But yeah, get those herded in. Even if you're going to play aggressive, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't herd effectively and make sure that your town center is safe. Not because it's going to protect you from potential aggression, because, you know, Dutch isn't going to be that aggressive, but it saves so much walking time, and it makes your aggression that much more effective. But other than that, I really did enjoy this game. There was a lot of unique stuff. There was mantlets. There was an alligator army. There was, you know, forest prowlers and musket riders, and it was just really cool. It was really cool to see. Awesome Iroquois versus Dutch game. So yes, thank you to NX Worries and Lecastete. I feel so bad. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I do apologize. But thank you. An excellent game to watch. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all enjoyed this replay analytic. If there's anything that I missed, or if there's anything that I got wrong, please do not hesitate to let me know in the comments below. I am by no means perfect, and I know I make a lot of mistakes, so I'm happy to get that constructive criticism. But that's going to be it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you all later. Bye.